Oh, the mistake, and McBreen's clean through on goal here to win it. What a miss from Daniel McBreen.
Fucking dog shit.
Hello everyone. Well, today, like every day on A-League Off Air, we are celebrating the duality of being a football fan. Now, sure, you can wrestle with your inner demons about supporting massive debt-ridden multinationals looking for any way to gouge their fans to make a buck, whether that be in Spain, Italy, Germany, or England. You know, if that's what you feel reflects your innermost dreams and aspirations, some warped idea of sporting values, as your team lurches from one record transfer to another in the shadows of an ever-escalating wage bill, while nervously awaiting the outcome of a court case and knowing that the next refereeing scandal is only just around the corner, well, good for you. But I can guarantee you one thing, people. You will not see at your sparkling, renovated Spotify Camp Nou or in your theatre of dreams a moment of sublime duality, a bemused look on the face of a 19-year-old striker at a place called Ironbark Fields when the referee stops the game and tells him not once, not twice, but 3 times, "Pull your socks up, young man." Now this is the type of duality that only an A-League fan can truly appreciate. Perhaps Melbourne Band, Tropical Fuckstorm sum it up best. That feeling that A-League fans have when they walk into a stadium or sit down on the sofa to watch the greatest show on earth. They sang, "The downside is we're all about to get royally fucked. The upside is we're about to get screwed." I am, you are, we are Oliver Laval. Welcome to A-League Off Air. Macca,
Robbie?
I know you said it had to be less than 90 seconds to get it on Instagram or some such, but I just thought, fuck it.
Well,
Now,
that's the way we work.
Before we introduce our guest, I have to ask you one thing, Macca, and I think I represent all A-League fans that were watching on Friday night. In the 38th minute, I had to note it down. You were trying to explain something to Simon about about runs in behind. And me, like everyone, knows that you were just desperate to say, fucking, he's got to get in behind or swear or something, because you just couldn't get it out with this nice, eloquent terms.
Yeah.
It had A-League Off Air written all over it. What the fuck were you trying to say?
Well, I was trying to say the runner has to make the run to force the pass instead of the pass making the runner go, but it just wouldn't come out. And as it was coming out wrong, I was going, well, this is definitely going to be my what would I do fucking different on A-League Off Air. I can't even spit our fucking name out. It didn't come out well. I think I finally got there in the end. And when Simon was looking at me with a face of total bemusement, I knew that didn't make any sense whatsoever. But I thought in your intro today, you might have gone along the lines of, you know, us as Australians, we've claimed Russell Crowe, we've claimed Pavlova, we've claimed, I think, Crowded House, a few other things. And now, how good are our Australian A-League teams going? Wellington and Auckland sitting atop the table. How Aussie is it? It's fantastic. It's fucking fantastic.
Beautiful. Well, that's what you get when you're the bigger country over your near neighbour, you know. All their jokes are about Australia, probably the same way the English about the Irish and the French against the Belgians. Well, we have it. They've just got to cop it. We need to thank all our listeners for making last week's episode the most downloaded episode in the history of A-League Off Air, and we're only just getting started. So don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, share, and rate. We are actually featured as the #1 rating Australian football pod on Apple's charts, which is pretty good. We were up there along with, you know, all these English guys talking about the EPL.
Robbie.
So we mixed it in there. We're in the top 10.
Robbie.
Yes.
Stop wanking ourselves off and get on with the fucking show.
Well, this is important because I'm going to ask for sponsors soon in midway through the show.
Give us money.
Because, you know, we need some fucking exactly. We're not the love of doing this with you, Macca, every Monday morning is starting to wear a little bit thin. Our special guest for today's show is one that can give us hopefully some great insights into Macarthur FC, amongst other things of what's going on at that football club as they look to really emerge as a force this season. But Mr. James Meredith has done just about everything you'd want to achieve in football. He's played for his country. He's a Socceroo. He went to the World Cup. But as you've just alluded to, Mr. Daniel McBreen, he followed in your footsteps to York City. James Meredith, thank you for coming on the show. And before we hear about what Macca knows about you from York City, what do you know about him at York City?
In fairness to Macca, one of the first questions all the York fans would ask me was, do I know Daniel McBreen? They actually hailed him a York City, bit of a York City legend, if I'm being totally honest.
Fucking hell, it must be easy to get legendary status there.
Yeah, don't believe that.
Well, I kept forgetting that you played there, Mez, and I rang up a mutual friend of ours, T.Y., David McGurk, and I asked for a little bit of dirt.
Oh, T.Y.
Yeah, and he said he had to keep it PG, but he said the only thing that we could probably say on here, even though we are a little loose, is that he'd be sat next to you just an hour before kickoff in the change room. You'd be getting your boots and stuff on, and you'd sit down and say, "Who are we playing today?" Because you never had any idea who the opposition was. Is there any truth to that?
Ben, I was wild back then. I was just living the dream, young boy in my 20s in England, in York and Leeds.
Not bad, eh?
Fantastic. Now, you went all the way to the championship. You played alongside Aussie legend Timmy Cahill at Millwall. You went to the World Cup. You played for the national team under Ange. I mean, all of this stuff is like you say, boyhood dream stuff. Do you have a highlight and a special moment that you think, fucking hell, I may have played for Macarthur, but I also did all this?
Man, playing with Timmy at Millwall, literally the whole year was a highlight. Honestly, that was awesome, and he was so good with the boys, so good, with the team. It was just a great experience. So my highlight in England was probably when we played Chelsea and beat them in the cup. That was probably the biggest highlight. That was when I was at Bradford. It was great under Ange, and Ange has gone on to do so many amazing things, right? He's just the top guy at the moment. So I had a great experience on Ange. I didn't have much of a relationship with Ange because he didn't really speak much. but no, yeah, it was all awesome. It was all awesome.
That's I've just read Vince Rigari's book on Ange, and I thought we had as journos had a strange relationship with Ange. Well, not strange, because when he was on TV, he was very good, but he's so reserved, and he's got this, the way he talks. And it was interesting to read, in the book about some Socceroos just saying, who was it? Jackson Irvine went up and introduced himself to Ange at dinner and then didn't speak to him again for the rest of the next 4 days he was in camp. And that was it.
No, honestly, that's actually how it is. I love getting called up by him, but the only time I think we ever said hello was as I was going into the toilet and he was washing his hands coming out of the toilet, and he nodded and said hello. Like, I don't think I had an actual conversation with him, but he was such a great manager, and everyone was behind him. And one thing he did do, one time where he did talk really well, was his pre-game speeches. He could give the most motivating pre-game speech, and you'd just be fired up. But yeah, I can't say every manager's got a different technique and different way to connect with the players. But his was very unique, very different. But it worked, I guess, right?
How different to Arnie was it, Macca?
Look, Arnie you almost felt like a mate. He wanted to know everything about you and all that kind of stuff. I have read in the past and saying that he didn't want to get too close to players because he had to make tough decisions about their careers and stuff. So he didn't want to be their mate because it makes it harder. So he distanced himself that way, which it's different. Different horses for different courses. As I said, Arnie was completely different. He felt like one of your mates. So what we say, everyone's different.
Yeah, I'm going to share my own Ange story now. I was playing in Melbourne in the State League, and Ange was at South Melbourne, and they'd won the league, and we used to play them every pre-season because the Greek roots very closely linked with Ange. And I'd interviewed him a couple of times. I was working at SBS in the late 90s on a show called Toyota World Sports, and I'd go down and keep an eye on the NSL. And so I'd interviewed Ange a few times. We knew who we were. I think he knew that I played for Stonington City, but we played them in a pre-season game. It was the end of our season, pre-season for them in the NSL. And I went up to him after the game and, said, "G'day, Ange," thinking, we know each other away. Maybe he's a bit surprised to see a journo playing here against his team and everything. He just went, "G'day, Rob." Shook my hand and then turned around and walked off.
So he's always been a closed book.
So, okay. Same thing happened when I was commentating the Socceroos before, would have been 2014 World Cup. Ecuador in London at the Den, I think it was.
The Den.
Where I was commentating. And I went down to do the pre-game interview and thinking, I haven't seen Ange for, however many years. Went down again. "G'day, Ange." "G'day, Rob." And that was it.
Man, a few words.
Anyway,
when he does say them,
he's a man
at
of
the
few
right
words.
time, and then they have the right meaning.
Yeah, absolutely. Legend. All right. Well, the whole idea of this podcast is to chat about the A-League men's competition and what happened on the weekend. So we start on a Friday night in Campbelltown. Where else would you want to be? Macarthur against Newcastle. Now, a week after they hammered Perth 5-0 in 45 minutes and then 1-1 in the next 45, Macarthur came up against Newcastle. Macca, how did you see this one? Because when Maranyakulish scored again, it looked like this was going to be, a repeat performance and that Macarthur were perhaps the real deal. Unfortunately, it didn't necessarily work out that way.
No, well, look, I'll be honest. First 20 minutes, they looked really shaky. The Jets did really well in the press, put them under a lot of pressure. There was a lot of turnover in their own half, and they kept putting themselves under pressure. And the goal really came against the run of play. But it just shows they can absorb that pressure. We've seen them before. They absorb that pressure, and then bang, they go like the Clappers. Jed Drew down the right, another good ball in. Miranyakulish, as he always does. Whenever Jed Drew gets that ball on the right, you're at the game or you can see a wide picture, you watch Maranyakulish. He fucking sprints his heart out to get towards that goal. Every time Jed Drew gets the ball facing forward, he just goes. It's like that's all his whole mantra is. Jed's on the ball, I've got to get in the box. And it's exactly what you want, and it's been working a treat. And you're right, when they scored that goal, you went, uh-oh, same old Jets, sort of pressure, doing well, and then they drop off. And then on the other hand, here come Macarthur. They did it last week, and they probably had another couple of chances where the crosses didn't quite make it, and you thought, yeah, they're going to ride this and go all the way. But the Jets had other ideas. For a long while, we were thinking that last third of theirs, they didn't sort of seem to have the cohesion. They didn't quite have it. Obviously, there was no Lockie Rose in there to cause problems, but they did well. Gibson did well. They were moving the ball around in midfield well. Lockie Bayliss was doing okay. And then all of a sudden, Eli Adams just stepped out and said, "Oh, fuck it. If no one else is going to do it, well, I'll just do it then." And it was... Look, you can in any goals, you can always pick on the defending and say, look, there was poor defending. You can always point 1, 2, 3 mistakes. But fair crack to Eli Adams. He turned Matt Yerman inside out and finished well for the first one. Thought that on the second one, the ball should have gone wide because he had about 3 Macarthur players around him, but he just shifted it to his left foot and placed it in the bottom corner. And Ryan Scott was good as well. And obviously had to make the penalty save late on to ensure the win. But I thought it was a spirited performance from the Jets. They did well, and that's the kind of thing that will give them confidence to go forward.
James, what did you make of this one from a team that you know well, as assistant coach as well as playing there, I might add. What do you make of this Macarthur side this season and this performance against Newcastle?
I like them. I think they look good. I mean, obviously they won the cup and they did it in a way where they're under a lot of pressure for a long time. Victory looked real good. They were sharp. They were away at victory in that sort of, intimidating atmosphere. They held on. Jed Drew broke away again. Like you're saying, he's great when he breaks away from sort of halfway and he's got loads of space to get into, especially if there's the runners in behind Valère and Yakulis. In the game against Newcastle, I thought that there wasn't much in it. It was very competitive. MacArthur had the better stats, the better possession, more shots on goal, etc. But I don't think they really took advantage in the times it needed to be. The penalty should have been put away. For someone of Valère's quality, that wasn't a good penalty. To me as well, though, both teams were tough. It was competitive. Like that tackle Ingham put in, I think it was about the 50th minute, something like that. Or maybe, he crunched him. I'd say, that's a broken leg there, honestly.
Was that the start? Was that the starting point? Was that the first little spark? Because we'll get back to it. There was more before this.
They were going, weren't they?
Minutes after that tackle.
Yeah, they were going at each other the whole game. There was little niggles going on. Obviously, sometimes you don't catch that on camera, but when we were at the stadium, we were watching in the back play, and there was little shoulders being dropped, little elbows being tucked in, and you were like, "There's a real thing going on here that it could boil over." And it took a while, but it finally got there.
I
think sorry, go.
Yeah, you're right. No, I was just going to ask you because we'd spoken about Jed Drew, and Macca talks about Marin Yakulic making those runs. Now, Jed would have just been a kid coming through. Was he there when you were there? So you saw this lightning fast kid. Now, I believe his ratio of balls that actually find their target has come down from 1 in 500 to about 1 in 3, but Marin Yakulic continues to make those runs. Now, that's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, obviously, excuse me, Jed Drew. But he's so dangerous and gets so many options. Once he gets that final pass really consistent, then you're going to have a seriously dangerous player on your hands.
Well, funny enough, that's exactly what it was like. So when he was younger and coming through, he had all that energy, that pace to get in behind. Like he had the highest GPS stats for pretty much everything, right? But when he got in those areas, it was that final ball in between the 6-yard box and the goalkeeper, or just a good ball to find the opposite striker or an attacker. Really, that's where he's kind of come unstuck. So he's improved. He's getting better. I think he'll do really well for MacArthur this season.
Now, one other thing I've got to ask you about, and this you probably must have seen coming as well. How many Yabempties does Tommy Uscock let fly at training and during games? Because I reckon I was lip reading there, and my Serbo-Croat is not amazing, but I do know a Yabempti Pichka di Martina when I see one.
It's probably hundreds, honestly. And one of my favorite things about MacArthur was back in the day was when Verwitzer and Uscock would get into it at training. Man, they'd had the whole training would just stop. They'd be having a scrap on the pitch, speaking Croatian, shouting at each other. Sometimes they'd even start kind of swinging, throwing an elbow. It was crazy. But then 5 minutes later in the change room, we go in the change room, they're friends, they're chatting, they're laughing. It was like, man.
Love it.
My missus is Croatian, so I know a bit about it. I have to duck a few sometimes.
So you're saying that Dane Ingham and Tommy Uscock were arm in arm in the changing room after that one? No worries.
You mean, I don't know about Dane Ingham, no, but Verwitzer for sure.
No, it did kick off. And the assistant got a red card, yeah? I always forget his name.
Christophe Gamel, I think, yes. At the end. I mean, a bunch of people could have got red cards, I think, at the end of that.
Yeah. I think they were being very sparing with the cards.
Yeah. Well, Tommy Uscock is go, James.
He's French. He's got a bit of fire in him, Christophe. But I actually like it. It's good to see from MacArthur. They're all tough players now with Yerman and Uscock and Verwitzer and Braddon and Liam Rose. They're tough guys, and it's good that they're showing they're competitive and they've got heart. And it's good to see Christophe doing that as well. And Matty Smith it would be the same as well. So they want to win, they want to compete. There's a really good team there, really good staff, and if the players can convert, they'll challenge this season.
And I think that shows
they haven't been far off, have they?
No, and I think because they've been there and thereabouts and they're building and they seem to be getting stronger every time, I think that's a good sign for the Jets as well this year. We said how competitive the game was. They needed a result early in the season to get some confidence. It's a young squad for them. Doing it without Lockie Rose leading the line as well, I think he'll be even more important for them going forward. But for a young squad like that, Costa Grozos as the captain is the youngest captain ever at 23 years of age. That will give them confidence to go, hey, if we can hang into these games and do well, then they'll step forward and they'll make leaps and bounds this season after having the grounding of last season where they died off in games. Well, this one, they came from behind and won. And I don't know how long it's been since they've done that, but I'm sure you could go and research it, Robbie.
38 games.
Yeah.
38 games. Their first come from behind victory in 38 games.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So that'll give them confidence that, this season could be a little bit better for them.
All right. Well, just one more observation on this one, and it was the role of Marin Jakalic in that little brouhaha at the end, because he was clearly involved in lighting the fire, and then when it's all kicking off, you just see him sitting in the dugout looking at his, like it was, and there were two ways to interpret it. Either he was the evil mastermind just sitting in the dugout watching, World War III happen in front of him, or he was just sitting there just going, oh shit. Like, what the fuck have I done?
I love someone that starts it and then just fucking exit stage left and watches everyone else go apeshit. That's brilliant. Well done.
I reckon he's a player that has a little bit of that white line fever well, because I went out to their training during the week, and we had him for an interview beforehand, and he's a really lovely guy. Like happy, chatting, laughing, making jokes, talking about how great it is to be part of the Croatian community in Western Sydney, all of this. And then just to see him in the game, brilliant. He also said, interestingly, because I think he got a number of goals in the Cup, got 2 against Newey in the Cup, scored in the final as well, scored 2 last week, scored again today. So he's on fire. And he said it's because at Melbourne City, well, I asked him about his goal scoring, and he said because he feels loved, like he's in a nice family environment where he feels important at MacArthur, which wasn't the case at Melbourne City. Interesting. Make of that what you will. Exactly.
Need a little bit of love.
So let's move it along then to the next game with a whole lot of love. Saturday afternoon. Now, Adelaide versus the Mariners. It finished 1-1. Now, was this, Macca, a game of 2 halves or a game of 2 shit goals? Because that's basically all that happened in this game. Adelaide were on top early. They scored a really scrappy goal through Luka Jovanovic in the 10th minute. I thought that was right up there for ugliest goal of the season candidate. The Mariners looked really average. And then in the second half, Sabat and Gore managed to score an equally shit goal to equalise in the 62nd minute. They all count.
Yeah.
The Mariners were much better. So, yeah, this was a bit of a crazy one. Stefan Mork looks injured. I mean, there was that tactical switch at halftime, I think, which really changed the game for the Mariners, where Mark Jackson switched to 3 at the back, brought on Nathan Paul. That was probably the changing point in this one, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. I'll put the caveat on that I was watching this game while preparing for the derby, so I was sort of back and forth and didn't see the intricacies all the way through. But, yeah, I don't think that it's mutually exclusive whether it's a game of 2 halves or a game of 2 shit goals. I do like the way that the Mariners on their on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it said a lovely composed finish from Sabat and Gore, and I thought, fuck me, he tapped it in from 4 yards out and it didn't need much composure from there. But look, yeah, Adelaide obviously the better team in the first half. I keep a close eye on Stefan Mork in the match, and I have done since he's come back overseas, and he's playing in that 10 role. And the way that Adelaide liked to play, I was watching very closely that Jovanovic would make a run. When they had good possession, he would make a run towards the channel in the near side, and Stefan Mork would always position himself in the opposite 10 side and then look to make the run between the centre-back and the full-back that Jovanovic had drawn away, so there was a gap there. And he likes to try and make that run, and they tried it on a few occasions to catch the Mariners out. The only one that really came off was when Mork had that header and it just looped onto the top of the bar, but on the top of the net, sorry. But you said he's injured. Is that right? I didn't see. Obviously, I missed that.
Yeah, he came off. Well, he came off. Was it just? I don't think it was cramp. He looked like he was holding his hammy as he walked off. Unless it was just cramp. It was first game of the season for them, I guess. So it's possible that it's nothing too serious. James, what did you make of this one? If you kept a close eye on it, it's two young sides. What did you see here?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I did not watch that game.
Good. That's what, mate. Honesty is the best policy here because
Beautiful.
You'll get found out and you'll get ripped off fucking quick.
Exactly. And it was just two shit goals.
So. The Melbourne Derby.
Yeah. All right.
So what did you think,
Well,
Robbie?
let's go on then. Of this one, well, I thought it was a game of two shit goals.
Yeah.
So there you go. No, I thought the Mariners did very well considering their travel. They come back from China where they'd played well but lost again. We saw that this travel, is not easy to digest in midweek with big games coming up. So look, the way they turned it around, I thought it was interesting that Nathan Paul came on at halftime and the change in formation that they kept Docker on, playing as more of that wing back role that we saw from him before. But yeah, I think the Mariners showed a lot of character to come back, and it was reminiscent of the side from last year, that when their backs were against the wall, despite all the travel, they managed to get the job done. Even when they weren't on fire, they managed to get the result, and they did that here. I think probably first game of the season for Adelaide as well. They started with that energy, and perhaps just the little, it's first game. You've got to play yourself in a little bit, despite no matter how many pre-season friendlies you've played. So I think Carl Viet will see positives, but also plenty of room for improvement.
Well, I will say that, they went to the back three, the Mariners, but when they're in possession of the ball, most of the time they go to a back three anyway. They go to that box midfield and three up front. But the one thing that I noticed from the Mariners' goal was, and it surprised me that it took them that long, was that Isaias is playing as a centre-back, and he reads the play well, and we know he's good on the ball and everything, but he's not the biggest, strongest player at all, is he? And when you've got Edmondson and Quoll on in the first half, I'm surprised they didn't target him a little bit more to just physically bully him out of because the goal comes by Edmondson just getting across him, bully him out the way, getting the shot away, and then the scraps. I'm surprised they didn't really target him more in that respect to say, righto, Edmondson, go and plonk yourself right on top of him. Yeah, it might not be a pretty football, but we're either going to play it up to you and you pin him and bring people into play, or we're going to plop it on your head and everyone just run off him because he's never going to beat you in a header. So I thought that was a little bit, I don't want to say naive, but I expected more from the Mariners to see that and go, well, let's capitalise that and pinpoint that as their weakness.
But and we'll move on in a sec, but I think we all want to see more from Edmondson. He's a fucking giant, and he needs to put himself about. I mean, you've got to do that, especially like you say, when you're in those, where you find yourself in those situations. All right, let's keep moving. Who the fuck am I? Our weekly quiz. So last weekend I played with a bunch of players. Who was I? I was Hiroki Sakai. I played with Patrice Evra, Valère Germain, Zinedine Machache, and Marcelo, all at different periods of my career for the A-League link. I played with the Brazil international Luis Gustavo, the Dutch international Kevin Strootman, Mario Balotelli. I am Hiroki Sakai. So I've played with a fair few good players. For this week's Who the Fuck Am I? Remember that you can answer on Twitter or Instagram or wherever else you can see any message from A-League Off Air. Here we go. In a career that started in the NSL and finished in the A-League, I played in 3 other countries outside of Australia, winning a league title and a cup in Europe and 2 more cups in the Middle East. I represented my country more than 50 times, including goals on the biggest stage of all. I played with Adam Kwasnik, Rutger Worm, Shay Given, World Cup winner Charles Nzogbia, Tim Cahill, and Solomon Kalou, but not in that order. So there you go. There's the the quiz question. James Meredith is nodding knowingly, like his encyclopedic knowledge of Aussie players and Socceroos. He
And
may
I've got
have
that
a lead or
blank
two
look
there.
on my face that says, I've got fucking
You look
no
like
idea.
Oliver Laval being asked to pull your socks up, Macca.
Pull my socks up. I'm fucking hopeless.
We are going to have a long chat about that Ali Reza Fagani socks up moment, because that was just fucking surreal. Okay, time for the Melbourne Derby. Melbourne City fans must be wondering what the fuck went on here as well. This was the big one on Saturday night. And geez, James Meredith, we'll start with you because you watched this one, which is good.
It was good. Melbourne victory. They were great. And everything sort of seemed to fall their way. The goals were good, and I just think that they were good against counter-attacking. They were good pushing forward quick. So they look good. They're, if I'm being honest, although I love MacArthur, I think they're sort of my favourites this season. I think they'll, especially if they can get Azani on board. I'm not sure what's happening on that front. But I think they've got a good team, good players, good manager. They look good. They look sharp.
Well, you'd see there that everything fell their way. I think that was by design. I think it fell their way for a reason. And I noticed that every time that Patrick Beach had the ball, they just went man for man right across the pitch and just said, go on then. If you're going to play short or play long, we're going to win our battle, and you're going to have to deal with that. And I think two of the goals directly came from that. It was the first goal that they forced Beach to go long, and they won the first and second challenge, and then Zinedine Mishash just fucking went in like a bulldozer. I actually thought he could have got penalised, but it came right off his head. He wasn't looking at the ball, but he got it right on his head anyway. So I think that's what made him get away with it. And then obviously it goes through. The obviously clear one was when Beach got blocked. Now, I've looked out at the wide angle. Again, as soon as Beach got the ball, they're all locked on, man for man across the pitch, going, all right, then if you want to knock it long, we're going to win that anyway. We don't care. But you're going to take the chance to play short, which they did. And you notice when Beach plays the ball, he points to the guy that he plays to play it wide, and the guy looks, and there's fucking Virgos, I think, is just standing there, and he's like, oh, fuck, I can't play there. So then that sort of takes Beach by surprise, heavy touch, and the rest is history as Teague knocks the ball in the net. Now, Teague and Valadon, I'm going to move on to them very quickly.
Hang on, just very quickly. Just before you go, we'll come back to that. Patrick Beach, life lesson that he experienced on Saturday night after that outstanding performance the week before and a clean sheet on debut. Patrick Beach, what football giveth, football taketh away. Life lesson number 246, because you were king of the Pops a week earlier, and you're not this week, but that's all right because it can give it back again. But football, I think it was a lesson for everyone.
I love how he blamed the players, though. That was so funny.
Yes, I love it.
He was like, what are you doing? What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
It was so good.
Goalkeepers, mate. I've got a little thing on goalkeepers. My mum used to always love watching goals, not for the goals. She'd always say, what's the reaction of the goalkeepers? Because they'd all be getting up going, oh, what the fuck are you doing there? Someone would score from 50 yards out, and they're like, why the fuck didn't you press him? They're like, what the fuck? Why are you out of your goals? That was her favourite part of football, is watching goalkeepers go ape shit at people when it was their fault. But yeah, quality. But go back to the midfield.
Okay,
yeah.
Nisbet and Ballard.
Nisbet and Ballard. You can't tell me that this isn't the new Nisbet and Ballard. Valadon, short and stocky, gets around, fucking good on the ball, buzzes like a little fly around everywhere. Technically good. Teague, a little bit taller, a little bit leaner, blonde hair. It's just like Ballard, very silky touches, yeah. And they are forming this really great partnership. They've got senior player in front of him, Mishash, who's an absolute beast. And those two are everywhere, scrapping. Every time the ball goes up and it gets crossed into the box and it comes out, boom, one of those two, either one of them is there to pick up the scraps. When they lose the ball in a high position, both of them together, they're like magnets to the ball. They go and put instant pressure on the ball. And I think that's the reason in particular is those two and the way their work ethic and the way that they operate reminds me of Nisbet and Ballard. And that's why the ball fell their way so often because they made it fall their way. They took the scruff of the neck, and they're two young players, and they're only going to grow and get better as the season and the years go on. So it's exciting for Melbourne Victory to have those two players in there. In my opinion, I think they're fantastic.
James, you watched this game. You heard Macca's commentary where he clearly thought that there was a little bit more to Aziz Behic's ball tampering that went on in the second half. As a former defender, or as maybe you're still kicking. Are you kicking around in the Brisbane NPL, or you got an afternoon kick around?
I am actually. No. But I have been the last season. But yeah, go on.
So what did you make of the Aziz Behic incident? And perhaps he's not out of the clear just yet, because there is the match review panel, which I guess could have a look at it, because there was no booking given or any action taken by the referee. Just accidental contact or a bit of experience at play there?
I missed it. I don't remember that part. Explain what happened.
Oh, Arsene Wenger.
You said he watched this game. He just watched the highlights again. Fucking hell.
He's just quoting Arsene Wenger.
I have a daughter. I'm just picking her up, looking after her.
Don't blame your daughter.
I can't see everything. I can't see everything here.
How could you? Well, you must.
No, but it is great to see Aziz Behic back in Melbourne, because he's had a great career overseas. So I'm happy about that.
Must have been.
But I missed this incident.
You must have sat in the VAR with Kate Jakowicz, because she missed it as well. And how I'll never know. She didn't even call. Well, she didn't even say that she'd looked at it, so she's missed it totally, which is staggering. Last week we actually praised the VAR process and how good it was. They were exceptional last week, right across the board, and got everything right. This was a huge glaring miss, considering last week.
Well, talk us through it, Macca, first, because James doesn't even know what the fuck you're talking about. So,
obviously,
explain what happened.
It was Virgos, wasn't it? Was it Virgos? Yeah. It was on
the
ball.
Yeah.
And Aziz and another player, City player, come from either side, very aggressively come in to win the ball. And he even goes high with his first thing. And I think he skips across the thigh or the knee. Yeah. And probably it was lucky he didn't make heavy contact there. And then as Virgos fell to the floor, he stands and he can fit, in my opinion, he could feel behind him, and he's standing on the floor with his leg against him, and he lifts his foot up and he stamps down on him on his nuts. Without looking, he didn't need to, because he could feel the play there, and you can see this force in the way he does it because we had the perfect camera angle for it, and how anyone can say that it wasn't. I don't know how you can justify it wasn't a deliberate stamping, which, considering, Simon pointed out to me, Zinedine Mashash got sent off last year in the same fixture for this very similar thing in a similar area.
Yeah.
James Jego got sent off the week before for it.
Rufa last year.
Rufa as well, yeah. It was clear and obvious, in my opinion, and should have been called over. And I think if Alex King had been called over, he would have sent him off.
Aziz has got some bite to him as well. He flies into tackles quickly. He's sharp, so yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he left his studs in.
He's experienced enough to know what he's doing.
He does fire up, and that's love the non-scene character assassination from James Meredith there as well. Beautiful.
Guys, I'm just being honest with you. I'm sorry.
That's what we love.
I'm a busy guy. I've got a lot of things going on. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm gonna bow out of the next chat then. Perth Wellington, because I was up at 3 a.m. Well, 5 to 3 on Saturday morning to commentate the Matildas in their clash. 5 a.m. kickoff against Switzerland, finished 1-1. Not a bad performance from the Tillies, but it meant that by the time the distance derby ticked around at 9:45, I was well and truly ready for bed. I have seen the highlights since then, and my main contribution to this, Macca, having had a go at Perth the week before about how shit they were against MacArthur, this was coach-killing defending, wasn't it? I felt sorry for Zdrilla watching this back. I mean, how can you ever expect to win matches? And this is from set pieces. This is on transitions. We're not talking about a high press and players not understanding stuff. We're talking about one-on-one responsibility to defend that experienced players are not doing. We're not even talking about the 16, 17, 18-year-olds that Striller was playing. We're talking about big players here.
Yeah. Look, I watched this game once on my phone after the game when we were leaving the derby, and then I thought, no, I didn't really get it, so I watched it again last night. And to be fair, that was the difference between the two teams. Perth were a much better performance. They didn't go all-out press. They sort of a lot more compact. It was a very even game, in my opinion. That even if you look across the stats, it was pretty much across the board a relatively even game. They didn't really pose too much threat going forward. Pennington had a good shot, a good header that went flying wide early in the second, or about the 60th minute, I think it was. And Taggart had a header early, a shot from edge of the box. Apart from that, they didn't really offer too much, in the way of threatening Wellington. But the other, you could say the same the other way for Wellington. They, Roof is very good for them as always, getting in the middle. Tim Payne gets up and down. Sam Sutton, I thought, was decent. They've got a good squad there. The Japanese guys were good, Ishiga and Nagasawa. But it comes down to, as you say, basic errors in defending. Not something you think that you would be saying, you need to talk about. As a coach, the first goal, Brandon O'Neill's marking Wooten and Taggart's in front of him. And I was watching the two players behind Brandon O'Neill were jostling for position, the defender and the attacker. The defender's getting his arms up and they're trying to jostle for position. Brandon O'Neill just stood behind Wooten, didn't touch him once, didn't try to get Skull's side, didn't try to adjust him or block him, just stood there. And then when the ball came in, Wooten just stepped back on side, ran in behind Taggart and scored. And it's like, that's 1/2 of your senior players, because Tags didn't know he was coming either. So obviously there's no talk from behind. And so that was basic 2 senior players there. And then I've already put something on Twitter about the second goal. It's like someone dropped the fucking remote control on FIFA and the player went running for a hot dog in the stand. He had no awareness whatsoever what was going on. There was no pressure on the ball from the cross anyway. But that, you see the 3 other Perth defenders, when the ball goes to the back stick, all just put their arms out going, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing? Where are you going? Tim Payne just must have thought, oh, thank you very much. The Red Sea parted straight through, scored a goal. They were the 2 things that cost them. And like you say, David Drillett should be sitting there going, well, how the fuck do I tell them that these basic things, they'll have to really go back to like under 14, under 13 basic stuff, even younger, shouldn't be teaching that stuff. That should be stuff that is the norm, and we can move on to the more technical stuff.
James, when you're defending a set piece, how much of it is in your head as a central defender? And also, I mean, the second goal for a left back as well, for a full back, to not have awareness of players around you when a cross is coming on, they're the basics of the game. What are you doing there if you don't have these basics, this defender's mentality?
Yeah, I mean, Perth seem to be in all sorts of shambles. I think they've been like that for a while now, if I'm being honest. I was at Perth a few years back under Popovich, and it was unbelievable. And he had everything done perfect, unbelievable. And that's why we're a team competing at the top. But I just think since COVID, it's been tough for them. And I'm not sure they've got the budget to really do anything. So, I'm assuming they're having to play. I haven't looked at the average age of the Perth players, but I reckon a lot of them would probably be young, if I'm going to have a guess. And especially with younger players, it's a lot more difficult on set piece, because a set piece, when you defend a set piece, it's more just about like, are you looking around? Who's marking who? Are you going up to compete? Are you talking, telling people who have they got? Are we in the right spaces? A lot of it's just to do with experience. So I think it's going to be a real tough season for Perth. We saw that last week with MacArthur, right? So it's going to be tough, and they need to get those basics correct real quick, the basic defending set pieces, or else, they're going to concede a lot of goals.
Yeah, they conceded a lot last year already. Yeah, go Macca.
No, I was going to say, and that's the thing, they're already conceding a lot of goals in the last couple of years, but they were scoring a lot of goals as well. The chances that they created on the weekend, okay, Pennington's header maybe, there wasn't too much. There wasn't too much the week before. Taggart, I don't know, he just seems to be a little bit more isolated and he has to do things himself a bit. But you can't expect to compete in matches with giving away soft goals like that. Like I said, the rest of their performance wasn't too bad for mine. It wasn't too bad. But when you give away 2 soft goals like that, you're fucked. Straight away, you're behind the 8 ball. So they need to sort that out. They need to sit down and have a good chat about, using your body, you doing the shithousery parts of the game where you're blocking people, stepping on their toes, not letting them to move, all those things that not letting them to get to the area they want to be, that are just, as you say, the basic things that you know from football. If player A on the opposition wants to go from there to there, well, I'm in the middle blocking that run and not letting him go.
Well, I guess the next international break can't come quickly enough. I did have a chat to the people at Perth this week after the 6-0, and a lot of people saying there's been a lot of turnover in the squad, and also a number of the players arrived injured as well. Kanga has only arrived 3 weeks before the start of the season, doesn't speak any English. That was spoken about, the Ecuadorian defender as well. Before we move on to the big game on Sunday, well, the two big games on the Sunday, I want to bring us back to that sponsorship chat that we just touched on right from the top, Macca. Now, it's true, we don't have any sponsorship. We don't have any money coming in. This is a labour of love, this podcast. But I just thought, why don't we ask A-League fans to give us some sponsor ideas, because we don't want your standard sponsor. We don't want betting, gambling sponsorship, because that's not really our thing. Our first idea is obviously a brewery or a beer. We need some A-League off-air sponsorship to get behind us to make things happen. What's an A-League off-air type sponsor that we could go with? We're not talking about hedge funds or sports manufacturers. We want something a little bit A-League off-air. Brewery obviously springs to mind, Macca. What are your thoughts?
No one's going to knock back the brewery.
Or a pub, a venue?
Yeah. All right. Well,
James, any ideas? Who could sponsor us?
I think that you're going on the right line.
All right. Have a think, people. Send us a couple of messages where you think we could get some money for our long-suffering producer first and foremost. Sunday, as the A-League continued, Auckland against Sydney FC. Now, this was started with a nice little bit of shithousery with the Wellington Phoenix fans hiring an aeroplane to fly over the Mount Smart Stadium with the message, New Zealand is yellow and black. See you next week. Or words to that effect, I think it was.
Yellow, see you next week.
Yeah, brilliant. Well played, Wellington Phoenix fans. I think we all like that, don't we, Macca?
Love it. I love that shit. Petty, fucking grubby shit. Perfect. I love it. It's right up my street. Great advertising as well. I love it.
All right, so that's for the Kiwi Classico, which is on next week. But this was a big contest on many levels at Mount Smart Stadium. Auckland and Stevie Corica up against Sydney FC, the side he took to the title. Auckland, who'd won their first game, they had another 15,000 at Mount Smart. The super slide was there. I didn't see if Piney went down the super slide. Did he? I missed the pre-match.
I want to go over there.
We'll have to get on to Jacob Spoonley about that. More seriously, there was no Douglas Costa for Sydney FC after their midweek exertions in Japan. He was nursing a tight hammy. Joe Lolly came off with what looked like a groin injury as well. The travel is starting to take its toll. And there was controversy late on in this one, Macca. I mean, this one, it had just about everything you want to create a new rivalry when a new team comes into the competition.
Yeah, it did. Mez, what did you think? Did you watch this one?
Robbie, Mac, I'm being honest with you. I only watched the highlights.
That's all right. So what did you see from the highlights?
Did you see the goal?
Because there must have been – what was it in the highlights? Go.
I'm going to give you a political answer here. I think Auckland are going to be a tough place to go this season, really tough.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the crowd behind them. They're a fresh team. The manager, good manager, and it just seems like they got a good, solid group of players. I was surprised when they got the likes of players like Jake Brimmer.
Coming off the
and
bench.
if you look at Sydney's lineup with You know, you got Redmayne, Caceres, Lolly, Grant. You've got real quality players. So for them to go there and get shut out like that they've got good momentum, Auckland.
You mentioned Grant there. I've picked someone out who I thought was exceptional last week and didn't seem to pick up the plaudits. Everyone was talking about the other players, and I thought he was pretty good last week, and I thought he was exceptional again this week, is young Gillian on the left wing for Auckland. Now, this is his second game. Yeah, he played for Wellington City before in the local league in New Zealand. He's 22 years of age. I thought he was good last week. This week he was up against a 16-year veteran of the A-League, a 22-time cap Socceroo in Ryan Grant, and he fucking caused him all kinds of problems. The way that Auckland played their game, and I agree with Mez that they've got a very good squad organised. Defensively, that squad is really good. It's going to be difficult to score goals against them, the way they set up, the players they've got. But the way they played was very good. They'd move the ball to the right and play that diagonal ball out to Gillian. 60% of their attacks came down his side, and De Vries would like to go out there around him as well at times. And also Guillaume May would drift out to that side too and combine with him. But I thought he was exceptional, and he caused them all kinds of problems. And I think that he's only going to get better as he's around that environment under Stevie Corica and with the coaching staff and the senior players there that will help him. I think he's a real standout for them already in this season. He just needs to, I think when he gets better, that finishing touch will also improve. There was a couple of occasions where he got in behind and he probably could have played the pass early, took an extra touch, and he found out at this level, Ryan Grant does get back and then put you under pressure. But look, there was a lot of controversy in this game. There was a shout for, it was an offside disallowed goal for Sydney FC that if you go on social medias, shock horror, all the Sydney FC fans can't work out why it's offside, saying that he came back into the play. But I went back and watched it, and I think they got that right, because as the ball's in a melee on the floor and they're all jostling for the ball, he's in an offside position and he comes back from that position and gets directly involved in that melee. And I believe that they got that right. So with that one, I'm okay. The other one I'm not too sure about. So I couldn't quite work it out. I tried to see it a few times.
The penalty shout or the goal at the other end?
I'm going to go in order and go to the penalty shout and say that I've watched it back about 10 times. I've tried to slow it down, and every time I slow it down, the bar on my phone is in the way, and I can't see if... Now, they came out, John Moss, and said apparently that there was jostling and grappling from both players. My immediate reaction was I thought Klamala had De Vries in a headlock, and De Vries, if it was De Vries, and had his arms around him. Yep. So they were both wrestling. And it's like, well, okay, well, who initiated who? I don't know, because I haven't got the footage and I couldn't see it up close. But that's how it came across to me. And then that's their explanation of it, that they were both grappling. They've cancelled each other out basically, so play on. Then you move to the winning goal, unless you want to talk about that more, Robbie. No,
that's all right.
Yeah, then we move to the winning.
I mean, the referees justified their position and their stance.
And I'm happy
one thing I would ask, maybe before we go to the goal then, James, because you've played a little more recently than our erstwhile colleague here, Daniel McBreen, who cut his teeth back, when
the dark ages, right?
Knee-high challenges with the studs were
acceptable.
Yeah, the norm.
So exactly. So when you've got two players wrestling, I mean, the idea from the referees this season is we want to let things go a little bit more. We want to have a little bit more of a physical league. That's the way Australians like their sport. That's the way the A-League has always been. The sporting culture of this country it's physical, it's tough. And I'm not saying that that's not the case in England or Spain, where I guess, you can still get cut in half by a good defensive challenge as well. But here, that's the decision that's been made by the referees. What's a defender's position? What's your position on these sort of things where you have players grappling, where you have, holding on, where you have things that aren't necessarily just one-way fouls?
Well, I'm glad the A-League are taking that stance now, and I think they should have taken that stance years ago, because that was one of the first things I noticed when I came to the A-League from England. After being in England so long, the English would let a lot more go. Like in the A-League, the refs were giving fouls for anything, and it got super annoying. The fans don't want to see it. You know, it's like it grinds down on you because it's just like stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. Refs want to be in control of it and run the game. So I'm really glad they're letting that go. But you can't let it go to the point where, like, obviously studs up on people's knees, right? So there's got to be a happy medium. But I'm really glad that they're sorting that out, the A-League. And just one thing on what you said before, Macca, about Gillian, is that, man, if he did really well against Ryan Grant, that's some achievement, because Ryan Grant is an excellent 1v1 defender. Especially even though he's a little bit older now, man, he's still got the pace to get there. He's super experienced, you know, and his strength is essentially 1v1s. Even when I was a lot faster, I always found it tough against Ryan Grant. So for a young boy of like 22, that's a really awesome achievement.
So now we're going to move on to the goal, yeah?
Hang on, no. Yes, let's move on to the goal. Yep, go.
Yeah. So obviously the claim is that it came off the hand of Pineacre as it comes in. Now, I've turned the footage from behind the goal and I've freeze framed it and I've looked it back and forth and I've just frozen it. And, you know, I've seen lots of people freezing it and putting it on and saying clearly hit the hand. Well, I don't think it clearly does hit the hand. And when we're talking about we want VAR out of our game as much as possible and we don't want them interfering, and they're saying we don't want to interfere and it has to be a higher threshold, that doesn't meet the threshold for me. I can't tell, and I've watched it 30 times. I've taken a few freeze frames, and I can't tell if it hits his thigh or his hand and comes back out in all that time. To me, the threshold is met that, it's an on-field decision, you know. Of course, when it's against your team, you're going to feel like you've been aggrieved. That's the natural way. But looking at it completely objectively, I can't see how the VAR can clearly say that is a clear and obvious error. We have to overturn it. They could say we don't know, on-field decision, goal. And you know what? I'm happy with that. And it was...
Yeah, they're gonna go both ways. Remember at the start of last season, I think it was a Brisbane game, they gave away a penalty for some astonishingly harsh handball in the area where the ball dropped over someone's head, hit the guy, hit the arm, you know, in a situation where there's nothing anyone could have done. Those have been eliminated in theory this season from the referees. Now, accidental handball with an arm that's not deliberately being used towards the ball or to block the ball is play on, except for the one instant where it's an accidental handball by the goal scorer. And that is the whole crux of the issue here, because if you accidentally control the ball with your hand and then score, no matter whether it was intentional or not, you've used the handball to gain an advantage. But in this case, Pineacre, the ball bounces away, bounces off somebody else, comes back to him again. So in theory, the action, yeah. I'm not even sure if he still qualifies as a handball by the goal scorer since it bounces off and comes back.
Well, two examples from the weekend. Ryan Teague, it comes up, it clearly from the reverse angle, you can see it hits him on the hand and goes straight in. Yeah. His hand's away. Yeah. Yep, and then, clear. Exactly. You can see it. On the reverse angle, you can see it. Clear. We didn't see it at first, and from the first angle, still didn't see it, but when they went around the other side, you see it. This one, like you said, I've looked at all the different angles, all the different permutations, and I still don't think it's clear and obvious that he's handballed it. So, referee's decision, play on. Well done, Auckland. You've got 2 out of 2. You're top of the table. The Kiwis are killing it. Yeah. How good are they? How good are our?
And I got a stat. I got a stat to shat. I got a shat stat.
Good.
About the Kiwis from Andy Howe, our famous statistician. So Andy, you can find him on Twitter at AndyHowe_stato. He is the man that does all the stats for the A-League and the FA. He's an encyclopedia and publishes encyclopedias also about the Socceroos and the Matildas. I'll have to see what it says about James Meredith in there. I'll have a look at that in a second. I could have used that for my intro. In fact, got stato.
Ange never spoke to him.
I'll check while we're in the next game. Ange never spoke to me. All right. Auckland FC is the 3rd team from Auckland to play at a National League level in Australia, following the Football Kings in 1999 to 2004 and the New Zealand Knights 2005 to 2007. This part, people, we knew. In 5 seasons, The best placing by the Football Kings was 8th out of 16 in the old NSL. They finished 8th, their highest position ever. The highest position they ever held during the NSL seasons was 8th. The New Zealand Knights finished last in their 2 seasons in the A-League. After 2 games, Auckland FC has already equalled the Knights' points tally for the entire 2005-6 season
Fuck yeah.
with 6 points. And Auckland FC's total crowd of almost 39,000 in their 2 games is just 340 people under what the Knights achieved for all 10 home games that season.
That's awesome.
So there you go.
That's awesome.
That is what Andy Howe can bring to the table,
Well,
ladies
I've got
and
a
gentlemen.
stat for you, Rob.
And
I don't bring stats very often.
Yeah.
You got one?
Fire up.
My first ever
Yeah.
professional goal was against the Football Kings for Newcastle United in a 5-1 loss. At 5-0 down, I came on
really?
and scored. A composed finish from 3 yards out, a la Sabit Ngor.
Sabit Ngor.
Ball fell down. I tapped it into an empty net, and I picked up the ball and ran back to halfway. So there you go. The rest is history.
Isn't that what Patrick Svansvik was saying? Your debut was a 1-0 victory for you when you came on. Your team won 1-0. Isn't that what he said? His debut in the Netherlands was a 8-0 loss or something, but when he came on, it was a scoreless draw. I think there's something about that from a story he told us. All right, while I delve into Andy Howe's centenary edition Encyclopedia of the Socceroos to just see what is said here, let's chat about the last game of the weekend. There's only really one thing to talk about, and that is the pull up your socks, Ali Reza Fagani moment. Yeah. But Western United versus Western Sydney Wanderers, it was at Ironbark Fields. There looked to be an all right crowd there as well. It's not an easy place to get to. It's not an easy place to broadcast out of. If people watch the broadcast, I'm not suggesting for a second, James, that you did. Western Sydney Wanderers fired themselves into an early lead. Brandon Borello, he's my tip for the Golden Boot. So he's up and running now. And I think if he gets on a roll, there could be some goals there. He's certainly their only real source to goal at the moment because Nick Milanovic is not quite firing on all cylinders yet. And Western United, for the second week in a row, turned things around, managed to come back, probably edged enough of the match overall, I'd say, to almost have got a win out of this one. Ibasuki with his first goal in the second half, a tidy finish. I think it took a deflection off Bonatig on its way in, but it was on the volley. It finished 1-1. Macca, 2 sides, probably fair result in the end.
Full disclosure, I fell asleep.
Or did you not see this one either?
Full disclosure, I fell asleep in this one. I'd had a heavy schedule of Campbelltown on Friday, Melbourne on Saturday, drove back to Newcastle, watched the first game, and I nodded off in the middle of the game. So what I will say is that, yes, I thought Western United, yes, there was a great atmosphere. It seemed to be a good crowd there, and they'd done a lot of good work there with the community. Western United seemed to me at the start to be the better team. I thought the goal came against the run of play. Brandon Borello, strong, aggressive in his goal.
Too strong.
It's good to see him getting back on the score sheet because it's been a while. And then I sort of drifted off asleep a bit and woke up and saw Ibasuki's goal, which was obviously a shit clearance from Jack Clisby. Well, I don't know why he's heading. We've talked about Perth and basics, but why is he heading that ball back into the middle of the goal instead of away out to the sideline? Ibasuki couldn't believe his luck, but he was there and he put it away. But Angus Thurgate seemed to be in the thick of most things for Western United, from what I saw.
Yeah.
I thought he was the same last week.
Grimaldi, excellent.
Yeah, Grimaldi
thought he was outstanding as well.
Good.
He's a good little player.
Yeah, don't mind him. But you called it, Rob and Mez. Did you actually see this one, or is it highlights again, mate?
Highlights.
Excellent.
But I love the volley from the headed clearance.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Great goal.
Spot on. So you didn't see the socks up moment
over here. No.
Well, I don't think we need to revisit it, except go and check it out if you can, because it's one moment where Ali Reza Fagani just goes above and beyond his role of referee, and poor old Ollie Laval doesn't understand what's going on. I thought at first he was looking to see if he had any shin pads on, because he's got tiny little shin pads that are about 10 square centimeters, maybe. But he literally made him pull up his socks and play with them. And, socks are your one way you can show your individuality and identity on a football pitch. Francesco Totti had a fantastic career at Roma, courtesy of wearing the socks down low around his ankles. And having the shin pads fall out. That's it. So poor old Ollie Laval. But it was a strange moment. No, for this one, more seriously, I think Western United. Look, I think they were unlucky. I love the way they play, and it's by necessity that they play so many kids. I'm a big fan of Ibasuki, at any rate, because I think he's so strong. He's not the most technical, but he's got a fantastic footballing, not necessarily a creative footballing brain, but he understands the game and what his role is and what he needs to do. And he's not the quickest, he's not the most athletic, but he's there and he brings his other players into the game, and that's only going to improve. And he played a full 90 minutes, which I asked JA about after the game, because I can't remember the last time he played 90 minutes. Like, he's a 6'4", 35-year-old striker, target man, who's getting buffeted and elbowed and backing in the whole game. It's not easy to go 90 minutes either. And when you're surrounded by 18-year-olds, it was a good effort. Shout out as well to Dylan Leonard, who Grace highlighted as well in the call. 17 years of age, second ever A-League game, first start in the centre of defence alongside Tomoki Imai. Outstanding. By the end of the game, he was pinging 60, 70-metre crossfield balls under pressure as well. So
well done.
Outstanding. Yep, outstanding for him as well. Okay, James Meredith in the Socceroo's Encyclopedia. It's all fairly, as you'd expect from Andy Howe, statistical for the most part. Spent 3 years at Derby, came through the club's youth team, went on short loan stints with Cambridge United and Chesterfield, following a short spell with Irish side Sligo Rovers, returned to England with Shrewsbury Town, Telford United, the famous York City between 2009 and 2012, Bradford City 2012 to 2017, Millwall 2017 to 2019, 189 league appearances in 5 years at Bradford, helped the club to promotion from the fourth to third tier, 2 appearances for the Socceroos in 2015, both World Cup qualifiers, Kyrgyzstan in Canberra, Bangladesh in Dhaka, played well over 500 league and cup matches in England. That's something to hang your badge on. Before making his way back to Australia to join Perth Glory and New Sydney side Macarthur. Does that all sound pretty much correct?
That is all bang on.
All right.
That's all the boring shit. That's all the boring shit.
Yeah, no, so
we want to hear all the fun stuff that happened on that journey as well.
Okay, so here's a potentially little interesting bit. From Albury on the New South Wales-Victoria border, James Meredith was spotted by a scout playing in Melbourne and moved to Derby at the age of 16. How is that even legal?
Yeah. It was actually. Yeah, it was Dean Hennessy and Joe Rudsky, 2 pretty well-known guys in the whole Melbourne NPL and A-League scene.
And how did it come about?
How do you get there at 16? Because don't you have to be 18? Or was that before the latest rule change?
I kind of have to sort of fiddle the story to. I had an English passport. My mum was English basically. Yeah, so I managed to get through that way. But yeah, you're right. You're actually not meant to leave school at 16 and go and do something like that. So we kind of had to work something out. It was a bit one of them ones. But no, it worked out great. So I ended up signing at Derby at 16, and the rest was history. It was a big shock at 16. It was freezing cold. You're in the Midlands. You've got no family. I'm in down. I'm sure you know what it's all about. But it makes you also grow up real quick. You have to become a man very quick. So, I loved it.
Nice.
Not too much sympathy for you. Clearly coming from Melbourne. Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to ask
much of a change.
So, in Italy, you can leave school at the age of 14, I think. Is that correct? Yeah. So that's why obviously they're so good at football. Although they haven't made the World Cup for a couple of... But for a long time, once you were 14, you could leave school in Italy. That's pretty young. Anyway, on that trivial note, let's have a look, shall we, at the league table very quickly, because that's the end. Is that the end of our wrap-up?
Yep.
Does anyone else have any more comments? Okay, so let me just bring up the standings. I'll give a little shout-out to... two excellent statistical websites independent of the A-Leagues that you can look at. Ultimate A-League, ultimatealeague.com, and also aleaguestats.com.au. Two excellent websites full of stats for boffins like me. Auckland, the only team with 2 wins from 2, the only team with a 100% record so far. Lead the way with 6 points. Wellington are second, courtesy of goal difference. Melbourne Victory are there as well with 4 points, so they're second and third. Macarthur, Newcastle, Sydney FC, and Melbourne City all have 1 win to go with a loss, so they're on 3 points from 4th down to 7th. Western United and the Central Coast Mariners with 2 draws so far, so they're there then. Adelaide, who have only played once, they drew. Brisbane, who have only played once, they lost. In between them, Western Sydney Wanderers with 1 point from their 2 games, and Perth Glory with 1 goal scored, 8 conceded in their opening 2 matches are bottom of the table. But I have a feeling there's good things to come from Perth Glory. Macca, we have, before we go on, I almost forgot. I promised that we'd give a shout out to Perth's media manager, Gareth Morgan, who is a great guy, and he is organising a Perth charity match, independent of Perth Glory, on Sunday, the 17th of November at Macedonia Park, kickoff 2:30 p.m. A gold coin donation will get you in the door to see the Perth Glory Legends versus the PCH All-Stars. Now, all the benefits from this match will go to the Perth Children's Hospital Foundation and the Hero Hunter Foundation, which helps the families of children who have cancer. Macca, I am reliably informed that if you can get yourself there, head coach of the Perth Glory All-Stars, and maybe for you too, Mez, because you're both former Perth Glory-ites, head coach Dino Julbich would love to have you there for the Perth Glory All-Stars. Exactly. So he's the coach these days of the Perth Glory All-Stars.
What a legend he is.
So there you go. We'll get over there. You've got 3 weeks to get there for that one. Tell us the Dino Julbich story.
I mean, I think I liked him because he was one of those guys that just crunched everyone in training and did not care, So, and he would laugh at you afterwards as well. So, yeah.
So there's a recurring theme here, Mez. One is that you love to smash people and you love to watch people smash people. And the other thing is that when our mutual friend from York City said, you don't know who you're playing an hour from. You don't watch much. You don't know what's going on. You just sort of roll through with it all that. If the highlights are on, I'll get the highlights. It'll be cool. So he wasn't far off the mark.
I've rolled through my whole life, Macca. My whole life. Yeah.
I love it. Good.
Just go with it.
The questions,
all right, now,
Robbie,
to put
questions
you on the spot,
this week, they were pretty poor, I thought, weren't they? There wasn't many very
Yeah, absolutely.
Exciting questions. Is there a way we can get to the Hamburger to make an appearance at the F3 Derby and steal the trophy? Bore off, run their mems. That's boring.
Careful, he's our graphics producer. He's a good man.
He is a good man, but it's a boring question.
It is.
Sydney got lots of injuries. Yeah. We've talked about all the VAR. Yeah, could Eli Adams catapult the Jets into the finals? The young lad is a fucking baller. Love the show, you fucking legends. I think he's
okay. Well, on Eli Adams, very quickly.
He looks good, man. He looks so good.
Sell. Did you see his goal last year against Perth, James?
Yeah.
He scored almost goal of the season and then hardly played another minute.
Yeah.
At Melbourne Victory 2 years ago, hardly played a minute. He's clearly a player with talent. He's fast. He knows he can. The left foot is good. Sell because unless Robbie Stanton is turning this around and getting something out of him on a
regular basis.
That was his moment.
That
was his moment. 2 goals in 3 minutes, 2 great goals.
Yeah, but he was good at Perth when he was coming. Brisbane. When he was coming through at Brisbane, I was actually surprised they let him go from Brisbane because I thought, gee, this kid's got a lot of potential. He was doing well in a team at the time that played very defensively, so he was even doing well then to get forward and go on his runs and stuff. Then he moved to Victory and just didn't get a look in. Went probably a club that's too big, couldn't get a look in there. Now he'll hopefully get his chance at the Jets, and he's shown again what he can do. But I think it's a case of him finding his feet again, getting game time under his belt, and just getting back to that consistently playing week in, week out, and that confidence. Not playing for 2 years at a club can knock your confidence massively, and I think he needs to find that again, just that regularity of I'm playing this week, and go and do the business. And if he can find that and show what he did the other night, there's no reason why he couldn't be a diamond in the rough that they've sort of resurrected his career, and then, as you say, sell him off overseas and make some money off him. You're all about the money. As we've heard today, you're all about the money, Rob.
The last seasons at Victory, he was up against Arzani, Falami, Valupale, Mashash, all for those wide positions. Casey Boss coming through, all in those wide positions. So at least at the Jets,
he's younger, right?
He's going to have
be like 21 at that time.
Yeah. I mean, he's still a young kid. He still looks about 16. So, and he's tall. I mean, physically, he's still to fill out, I reckon. He's quite wiry still. If he can put on a little bit of weight and get,
his goals against MacArthur were awesome. Yeah. And he kind of, I'm friends with Matt Jones. He kind of skipped past him and he's a great defender. And the way on the second goal he swerved his body and came in and put it in the bottom corner. And the commentator was right. Against Philip Curto, it's hard to score from that distance. He's very good at that shot stopping from that sort of distance. No, I was really.
Who was the commentator? Who said that?
Yeah, Cocoms was fucking spot on the mark.
Yeah, it was as well. Oh yeah, it was. It was. Oh my god, it was. Wow.
I'll slip you that 50 later, mate.
That was
bloody hell. That was a bit too fucking obvious. When I talked about sponsorship. It talked about sponsorship. It wasn't backhanders for Macca. Jesus.
No, straight up. Here's $50. Give me a plug. But yeah, it's true. You're right. Not many. I was right too. Not many people beat Philip Curto from outside the box. And he's just, like you say, that initial sway to one side moves Curto one way and the defence all that way, and he comes back and it was a wonderful finish. So, look, there's plenty of potential for him to grow and get better. And, that'll come down to me for how much game time he has.
He's only a young lad as well. Yeah. 22 years old. He just needs a manager to work with him. And if I'd need to play with him or coach him to have a bit more of an understanding of him. But it sounds to me like he's a player that needs to find consistency, work really hard to find consistency, where he's playing every week, playing well every week, at least getting sort of 7s out of 10s. He'll build his confidence, and then but he looks like he's got the attributes to be potentially a very good player.
All right, that'll do us for today. James, very quickly, what's on the cards for you at the moment? Are you coaching at the moment? I didn't catch that earlier. What are you up to in Brizzy, apart from looking after the little one?
I was coaching under MacArthur, and I loved it. It was great. Mile Sajowski is awesome. I think Mile and the ownership and everyone at MacArthur are doing an awesome job. My partner got a job up in Brisbane, so we moved up to Brisbane. And I also wanted to, you actually mentioned a little bit earlier, but I wanted to get up to 600 games. I was at 590 games. So I wanted to hit 600 as sort of a personal thing to me. I ended up signing at Brisbane City and had a good year at Brisbane City, got the games in, and we did all right in the Australia Cup as well. We ended up getting knocked out Western Sydney Wanderers. But it was a good experience. I loved Brisbane City and loving Brisbane. So that's what I've been up to.
So now you're going for 700 games. Is that right?
No, now I'm retiring.
Good.
Trying to. We'll see.
Excellent, mate. Excellent.
It's in your blood. It's in your blood. All right. Thank you, James Meredith, for joining us. Exactly. We all do. That's why we're here fucking on a Monday morning. All right, Macca, well played, mate. We'll see you on The Tactician.
You will.
This week.
Yep.
I guess.
Yep. You will.
All right, good stuff. For the rest of you, we'll catch us again next week on A-League Off Air. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, like, comment, whatever. We're on Instagram and YouTube even now. So how about that? All right, and we'll see you all next weekend for more A-League action. See you later.